things that are creepy and eerie. But I totally understand if this isn't the video for you. I'm sure there's lots of other videos out there of mine, maybe even that you can enjoy instead. But if you do find this enjoyable, then stick around and let's get to ASMRing. So this first story is called What Happened to My Roommate. And it starts many, many years ago, before kids, rescue animals, a mortgage, and a husband. I was a travel writer in Europe. I did most of my trips alone. This story is about the first time I visited Prague. I'd never been to Prague, and the trip was last minute, so I had little time to prepare. My travel partner had dumped me in another country, and I was determined to make the best out of the trip by visiting a place I'd never been. Upon arrival at the train station, I visited the accommodation office and asked for a hostel not far from the center. In my early 20s, winging it was part of the fun. These days, I'm far less adventurous. The hostel they sent me to was a sprawling, crumbling, slate gray Art Deco building on a nondescript street, about a 10-minute walk from Stare Mistel. Not sure if I pronounced that correctly. The inside was probably beautiful at one time, but by the time I checked in, it was full of shabby, mismatched furniture and cheap stained carpet. Most of the light fixtures were broken, leaving everything but the lobby dark and gloomy. It smelled of standing water and dust. I found my room, a double for $12 per night, and made note of the fact that I had a roommate. She wasn't there, but on her side of the room there was a suitcase, dressed neatly folded across the back of a plastic chair, a scattering of makeup containers on the beat-up desk, and a stack of German fashion magazines on the bed. As I had no plans or goals on this impromptu trip, I spent the afternoon exploring Old Town Square, the Jewish Quarter, and Wenceslas Square. I purchased some Czech crystal for my mom and painted eggs from a street vendor for myself. I also made reservations for a sunset dinner cruise for one. At around 6 p.m., I returned to my room to shower, change clothes, and unload my purchases. When I left my room about an hour later, there was no indication that my roommate had returned at any point during the day. After the cruise, I stopped at a tiny bar on Tinska and had a glass of wine. I had heard horror stories about the dangers of Prague, but I felt no more trepidation than I did in any other large city. Sure, the cobblestone streets, fog rolling off the Vltava, backlit Gothic architecture, and winding alleys made me think of Jack the Ripper and Dracula, but in a good way. It was nearly midnight when I returned to my hostel, so I was surprised to find that my roommate still hadn't returned. That wasn't uncommon, though. Backpackers are a fickle lot. She could have gone on a short overnight trip and just left her stuff behind, or was hanging out at another hostel, so I was surprised but not concerned. I took another shower before bed, however, and was surprised to find that things in the room had changed upon my return. Her bed was neatly turned down, the magazines had moved to the nightstand, and the dress was gone. The strangest thing, though, was the addition of a pink silky nightgown spread across the bed. My bed. Maybe she thought she still had the room to herself. I didn't see how. My shopping bags, clothes, and toiletries were in plain view. I gently moved the nightgown over to her bed and then settled in for the night as I wrote in my journal. assumed she was in the shower or somewhere nearby, so I expected her return shortly. After about an hour, though, her side was still empty. I needed to use the restroom before I went to sleep, so I made one last trip down the hall. The building was unusually quiet. There weren't the regular sounds of chatty backpackers, the clinking of glasses, or music that would normally leak through the walls. There was nothing. It was hushed, like a church after the congregation has left. I found myself practically tiptoeing back. My room was near the end of the hall, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the corridor was darker than before. The few working lights were blinking as they struggled to stay lit, and it reminded me of a funhouse. A tightness began to fill my stomach, and I subconsciously quickened my steps. There wasn't a soul behind me, yet I kept glancing back over my shoulder, convinced I'd see someone gaining momentum on me. The only sound was the soft thud of my flip-flops as they struck my soles. I was flooded with relief as I flung open my door, but it didn't last long. Everything was exactly as I left it, except for the silky nightgown, which was now back on my bed. Sleep came in fits and starts. I left the lamp on for a while, still convinced my roommate would be right back, but the shadows it cast made the room even spookier. It was too dark with the light off. I'd finally slipped into a deep sleep when I suddenly heard the door open. A man stood in the darkened doorway, the hall light behind him showing just enough for me to see his contorted face. "I didn't mean to," he sobbed. "You have to help me." Too confused and disoriented to be scared, I sat up, scrubbed at my eyes, and reached for the lamp switch. But once the room was lit, I saw that the door was closed. There was no man. I quickly bounded off the bed and went for the door. It was locked. Nobody could have entered without a key, and the hallway empty. I passed the rest of the night fully clothed, sitting up in my bed and with the light on. Though I'd paid for 2 more nights, at 7 a.m. I gathered all my stuff and went down to the reception desk to check out. "By the way," I said to the 20-something receptionist, "my roommate never returned. I'm a little concerned." She picked up the room key, looked at it hard, frowned, and then glanced at her computer. "What room were you in again?" When I repeated it to her, she looked back at her screen. "Ma'am, that room's been empty for 3 weeks, and it's been cleaned since then. We only have 6 people in the whole building." The hostel has since been renovated and is now a luxury hotel. And they added a little comment at the end of it that said, "I realized that we didn't physically meet, but I thought it was relevant since I seemed to have met someone. Someone entered and left my room." Oh gosh. Yeah, that was pretty terrifying. I know when I travel, because of stories like this, I don't like to stay in hostels. I'm sure they're perfectly fine, and I know there's really nice hostels out there. But I just always hear these stories in the back of my head. So, let's definitely not meet. Let's find another story here. And it was posted about a month ago, and it is titled, "To the Stranger Who Picked Me Up at the Park." I recently told my longtime partner of this encounter after realizing how lucky I was. Anyways, I remember being at a B-Day party, being held at a park, and I must have been 4 or 5 years old max, just because of how small I remember being. The tables at the park my family was at sort of sat on top of a slope, and so to get down to the playground, you had to walk away. My cousins and I did just older white blonde man who tried to kidnap me. Let's not meet. Oh my gosh. And they have kind of an edit here. It says, this happened around 2006-2007. No cops were called, and they left the party immediately. And it says, should my dad have called the cops? Maybe, but looking back, I could see just wanting to leave ASAP and making sure I was okay were of top priority. Absolutely. I'm so glad that you are safe, whoever wrote this story, and that your dad turned around and was able to make that person leave you alone. Wow. Okay. So this story is titled The Followers. It says, hello, this is the first time I'm going to be sharing this story online. I'm a female, now 22 years old. I'm only 5'1", and don't have many means of protecting myself. I relate to that in terms of height, being a short female. So it says, when I first left home, I got an apartment and a job at an exclusive club in LA while studying online. I was 19 years old when I first started working there and learned very quickly the environment I was in. Creepy older men, cheating husbands, and 0 women would ever walk in unless they worked at this club. The good bottle service, money kept me around for way longer than it should have. I always took my breaks outside in the back, scrolled on my phone, sat on one of the benches until it was time to go back in. We all did this, a breath of fresh air from the cigar smoke. As I did my usual routine, this was the first time I ever saw a female that I didn't work with, even in the parking lot. I assumed a husband had gotten caught up and doing something she didn't like. That quickly became far from the truth. She walked up to me, very put together. Expensive bag, expensive heels, and got dropped off from a very nicely priced vehicle. It had a New York license plate in the front, which wasn't really the norm in LA. When she got close enough to me, she asked me to help her pick up some change that had fallen under her vehicle. But didn't you just get dropped off? Is all that I could think of. I declined and apologized, but my break was over. I asked if I could get one of the bouncers to assist her, but she declined. Smart. She reassured me that it wouldn't take too much of my time, but I still refused. Went back to work, told some of the girls I worked with to be careful, as it was incredibly suspicious in my opinion. Absolutely. After work, I drove home to study and then get some sleep. My apartment was on the first floor in a non-gated area, with windows in my bedroom and living room that had the views of the parking lot. I know, super luxurious. I sat down on my couch, pulled out my laptop, and just proceeded with my after-work routine. 20 to 25 minutes after I get home, I see a flash from a phone straight into my living room window. WTF. I immediately run to the window, and there it was, the same black vehicle parked right in hindsight. I closed my blinds and immediately called the police. They show up, looked around, asked some questions, then left. Now, they did show up 15 minutes after I called them, so I'm not sure if I even expected them to find anything, but I wish they did. 2 weeks later, I'm at my local pet store with my German Shepherd. She's my rock and protector. I took her wherever I could after this incident. I would too. And I had recognized the lady across the aisle. Her face and the same outfit as the same woman who came up to me while I was at work. I made sure my dog could see her and that she could see my dog. She's fully trained, so I wasn't scared of them this time. I checked out after I saw her leave and walked towards my car to leave. A weird note was voicemails, which I can link, random tissues on my car, and other things that I just still choose to ignore. Oh man. And then they say, "Thank you for reading. This has been going on for about 3.5 years now." Oh my gosh. I haven't seen them since, but they definitely let me know they're still around. To those people, let's not meet. Absolutely, let's never meet. That is so terrifying. I absolutely hope that you have some type of protection. You said you have your dog. I'm so sorry that you're experiencing that, and I seriously hope that that stops. Wow. Okay, so this one was posted, or at least updated, maybe, 21 days ago. And it's called, "I posted about my stalker on Reddit and he found it." So it says, "Quick backstory. I've had a stalker for about 4 years. That's scary enough. That's one sentence. He was never aggressive or sent me proper threats, so stubborn as I am, I did my best to ignore him and not give him the satisfaction of showing him any fear. To be honest, after a while, I also wasn't scared anymore, since he almost never came close to me. I know being stalked can affect people severely, even in a case like mine, and that's totally valid, but I guess I just got lucky and was never really psychologically affected by it. His stalking behavior mostly just consisted of sending me letters and gifts, such as photos of my own apartment building from the outside, things he dug out of my trash can, and so on. I called the police many times, but they weren't able to, or really tried to catch him or identify him. That's too bad. About 3 weeks ago, I discovered the German version of I Am a Reddit subthread, and thought that people might want to know about what it's like to have a stalker. Since I barely use any social media aside from Reddit and have no personally identifying information here, I didn't think he'd ever see it. One person even asked, "Does he know you're putting him on blast on Reddit?" And I answered, maybe. Maybe it would make him angry. Maybe he'd be turned on. Don't know, don't care. Well, I know the real answer now. He did see it, and he did not like it. Oh my god. Like I said, he was never aggressive and never came close to me. The closest I know of was when he sent me a picture of myself unlocking my apartment door, taken from the corner of the steps above. Sorry if that makes no sense. I don't know how else to explain it. But I consider myself a pretty vigilant person, and I'm thinking that he might have hid a camera there instead of being there to take the photo himself. I think I would have noticed him if he did. I don't know how he got wind of my post, but he did. The next week was quiet, no letters, and I didn't see him anywhere. Then he left me letters with printed out questions and my answers from my post. He also left me a long, hateful letter towards my boyfriend about an issue I had posted on the German version of Am I the Mean Person? His letters were never hateful like that before, though he never seemed happy with my boyfriend. He wrote about how I should share the spotlight with him since I got so much attention thanks to him. A few days later, I got a gift, but this time he didn't leave it in my mailbox or at my car like he usually did. No, this time he left it inside the apartment building, right in front of the door. I didn't take it inside my apartment, but opened it outside. I wouldn't have opened it at all. It was a pretty big box, which was also unusual, and it was taped shut. As I'm typing it out, I realized that wasn't a good idea at all, and could have ended badly for me, but luckily he didn't send me a bomb or anything. Okay. He and told me they'd send patrol cars more frequently. He didn't show up or leave me any letters or gifts for about another week and a half. But 8 days ago, it started again. I found letters in my mailbox where he wrote about how he wasted his time on me, how I haven't been appreciating his effort, how he was wrong about me being special. 5 days ago, I left my apartment in the morning and heard a crunch sound as I stepped on my doormat. He put broken glass under it in the night. I went off to work because I was in a hurry and was just going to make my boyfriend call the police, but then I found my car had also been vandalized. The sides were scratched, lights smashed, and the windshield had a phrase painted on. "It's time soon, miss," my last name. I went back inside and called the cops myself. They found the same phrase on a note under the doormat. This time they really, really, really took me seriously. Which might have been because I was just pissed at this point, which I made very clear. If for some reason you're like me and just too stubborn to be afraid of a stalker like mine, then all of this, the letters, gifts, photos, even the dang glass under my doormat, are just really annoying and inconvenient. But my car was useless to me now, and the threat scared even me. I did, however, have a dash cam in my car, and it caught everything. The police said they took the footage as evidence, even though the dash cam footage wasn't of high quality, and I had given them photos of him that were just as good before, but they said it's not enough, and they told me they'll look into it further and promised to send more patrol cars again. Then it was quiet for 2 more days. Until 2 days ago, someone rang the doorbell at just after 4 a.m. My boyfriend and I got up, but we were both hesitant, but I saw blue lights outside, and just as I got up, I heard them shouting, "This is the police, please open the door." They told us they were called by one of our downstairs neighbors who came home from his night shift about an hour earlier, and heard someone else enter the building after them before the door fell shut. My neighbors know of my situation, and I've asked them to make sure they don't let strangers into the building. This neighbor then went into his own apartment and looked through the peephole. We have motion-activated lights in this stairway, so he waited to see if they turned back on. They did. Then he saw a middle-aged man walk upstairs. Above this neighbor are only me and my boyfriend, and a single mom with 3 kids who probably won't be getting any visitors at 3 a.m., so he called the police. They came and found my stalker 1/2 floor above me on the stairs. He should have been able to see the cop cars since there's a little window up there and they had their lights on, but he either missed them or wanted to get caught. They found a pocket knife on him, and he confessed to being my stalker right away. He's finally caught. They got him. It took 4 years, a provocative Reddit post, and one very vigilant and caring neighbor, but he's finally done. For now, at least. He's facing several charges, and I've collected every single piece of evidence over the past 4 years. I don't know what kind of outcome I can expect, but for now, I've finally got some peace. And they posted an edit. It says, today at 9:30 p.m. for the first time in over a year, I took out the trash by myself in the dark. My boyfriend always did it just to be safe, but today I had nothing to worry about. Oh, I'm so glad. That must have been a horrible experience, and I'm so sorry you went through that, but I am so glad that you can feel a sense of peace now. So the next one that I'm going to do, I definitely can relate to it just based off of the first sentence. So it's titled, "Please let me enjoy my hobby in peace." And it starts, "Thrifting is my favorite hobby." Same. If you can call it that. It's something I like to do alone when I get the chance, as it's a chance for my brain to shut off and just let go as I scan aisles crammed with random things for hours. Note, I'm a 5'5" former elementary school just saw me doing my thing. I tried to avoid her until I realized she started talking to random people around me about how creepy I was and how I was stalking her. People started giving me funny looks, but paid no mind once they realized how harmless and trimpy I look. Her, really, someone said. Yeah, and I'm gonna mess her up if I see her again. She began making more and more aggressive comments, and I decided I had had enough. I've never fought anyone in my life, and I wasn't planning to that day. I left my items and went to my car. Yeah, something was up with her, and I wasn't sticking around to find out what it was. To the actually creepy lady in the thrift store, let's not meet again. Yeah, I definitely relate to that. I love thrifting, and have definitely had a few creepy encounters and scary encounters when I've been thrifting myself. I usually go with my partner, but sometimes we'll be separated in the store, and I'll have a weird encounter, and it's usually always me. I mean, I'm a small female. That's probably why. He doesn't really ever get weird encounters, but it's either when we're separated or when I go alone, which I love going alone also, because it's definitely like my self-care. I just zone out. It's amazing. But absolutely, we can have some weird encounters at the thrift store. So, fellow thrifters and just people everywhere going out shopping, be careful out there, y'all. Okay, so we have one last story here, and it's called Never Thought Knowing Cars Would Save Me. So I'm of the mindset that everyone should know a little bit about cars. I've always been mechanically inclined and think that may have saved me. I was using dating apps a few years ago. Met this guy. He seemed super nice. We talked for a few weeks before I was willing to meet with him. His dad owned a local weapon store where I would go get my target stuff. I used to be in a women's league for competitive shooting, so I had seen this guy around and had a decent impression of him, but wanted to be safe. He invited me to a concert at a local town site. It was a concert I really wanted to go to, and I figured it would be safe since it was at a well-known place with a lot of security. I let him pick me up because he had talked about mechanics and cars, and he wanted to show me his Mustang. He bragged about how well he kept it running and how he babied it. I was into time trial racing at the time, so I was interested to see what he had done. He picks me up and we start heading to the event. Right before the exit, he says his car is acting funny. I was watching the dash, and if you've been in racing, you know our cars and trucks usually have extra accessories. Whether it's aftermarket racks and gauges or switches, there's usually something aftermarket inside the car. There was nothing extra. The car felt like it was shifting correctly. There was no shudder or noise, nothing to indicate any problems. I was like, that's weird, and all I said was we should try and limp it to the concert venue. It's less than a mile away, and it's better than being stuck on the I-15. He agrees, and he drives us very carefully the last mile. We get to the concert, and things were okay-ish. He kept watching me and buying me drinks. I refused to drink, so every time he gave me one, I would make up an excuse and go to the bathroom and flush it. He kept making comments about how well I was handling my alcohol. I was super uncomfortable. The concert ends, and it's time to leave. For context, this concert happened at the local reservation town site, and at the time, the res did not have great cell service, so I couldn't get a hold of anyone to come get me. I decide to bite the bullet, and I talk him into taking the old highway instead of the 15. It sounds silly, but when you take the old highway, even though it's slower, people are more willing to stop and help you than they are on the freeway. I figured if he was having car troubles, it would be safer, and we wouldn't have people flying by us at 80 miles per hour. Absolutely. We make idea that I'm actually native and I just had an albinism. Albinism. The hair on the back of my neck are standing up, so I checked my phone. I just barely have service and start texting my dad. As I'm walking away from the engine compartment, I noticed he was watching me, so I started acting like I was trying to get cell service to get help. Out of the corner of my eye, I watched this man take the spark plug wires off the distributor cap and switch the order. Your spark plug wires connect to the distributor cap based on the order your cylinders fire in, so doing that will either make the car run terrible or not even turn on. I managed to send my dad a picture of what he's doing, and my dad tells me to start walking. As I go to walk away, this guy gets back in the car and opens his glove box, which exposes a pistol he had. He tells me not to worry and we will be safe. I probably broke a world record for how fast I was texting my dad. He says to start walking and tell the guy that he is on his way and that our friends live up the road. Absolutely. So I do. I start walking with a purpose and take off as quickly as I can. The guy is yelling after me, and I yell back, "The wind is too loud, and I can't hear you. I'll be back with our friends." I'm scared out of my mind. We are 10 miles out of town with no one around. The closest road actually leads to a cemetery, so there is really no one here to help me. I get a really bad feeling the farther I get from the car, so I turn around and look. The hood is closed, his lights are on, so I decide to hide in the farm irrigation next to the road. I keep walking towards town and text my dad what's happening. I hear a car slowly coming up behind me and see a flashlight, so I press against the side of the ditch and wait for it to pass. Once I can't hear it anymore, I crawl out and just kind of keep walking along the weeds. My dad texts me that he sees me, so when he pulls up, I run to the truck. As we make it towards town, we pass the dude, and he's got like 3 cop cars around him. My dad tells me not to worry about what happened. I heard through the grapevine later that he had been charged with violent crimes in the past, and that he had been arrested that night for concealed carrying without a permit. The police never talked to me, but I haven't seen that guy in town since. If I didn't have experience with cars and didn't know what he was doing, I could have been dead in that ditch instead of hiding. Most communities have where you can take basic car care and maintenance courses. I highly recommend everyone takes them and at least know the basics.